Hello friends, I am going to record for you part 2 of the quilting flannel quilts for the homeless. In the first video, which I hope you'll check out, we were learning how to hand tie, and I actually finished hand tying this last night while my daughter was having a Zoom meeting. So I have trimmed all of the ties down to about 1 inch or around 1 inch long. I don't use a tape measure or anything. I just kind of ballpark it with my eyes. So now we're going to move on into the binding part of it, and I'm going to show you just a few steps of how I do the binding. There are many ways to do this. There's not necessarily one correct way, but I'm just going to show you my way. Welcome back. All right, we are going to start trimming this quilt down. Oh, if my cat doesn't knock my camera over. She's trying real hard. So to do this, we are gonna need 3 pieces of supplies. A sharp pair of scissors, and normally I use my orange handled Fiskars scissors, but I can't find them. So I just have a pair of Singer scissors. Hopefully they're sharp enough to do the job. A rotary cutter. I said 3, this is actually 4 pieces. We need a straight edge, and we need a cutting mat. So I'm not going to do all of this on camera because that would take way too long. So I'm just going to show you an example. So if I was going to begin trimming this down, the first step would be, sorry, my cat is really trying to help me here. Emmy, let's not do that, baby. Okay, cats and quilts. They love quilts. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do is just kind of pull this loose a little bit, because if you remember from my first video, I said that I used a spray baster. So there's like an adhesive layer in between each layer of the quilt. So I have to get that loose before I can start trimming. So then what I used for batting, which is actually just a fleece blanket that I got at the Goodwill, I'm going to trim that away even with the edge of my quilt. So I'm just going to use scissors for that. It's a little awkward position because I got my camera stand here. But once I get around my camera stand, I should be able to do this. Okay, and so again, we're just going to trim that off even with the edge of the quilt. Here comes another cat. They're actually not getting in the camera, I don't think, but they are very curious about what I'm doing. Okay, once you have that trimmed down all the way around the quilt, obviously I didn't go all the way around the quilt just now, but I will. Then you're going to come back in with your straight edge, your rotary cutter, and your cutting mat. Now, what I like to do is cut this right at 2 inches away from the edge of the quilt. Now, the nice thing about this clear cutting, I'm gonna have to shift this back just a bit. This clear straight edge for cutting is that I can see through it, and I can see where my black line for 2 inches is gonna kind of fall right on the edge of the quilt. I am so sorry, my cats are moving my quilt all over the place. So I'm going to line it up like that. Now, technically, I am right-handed, so this is a little backwards for me because I'm going to be cutting left-handed. I do have a rotary cutter that works okay to do that with, but typically I would cut everything on the right-hand side because that's just more comfortable for me. But anyway, I'm going to hold my my straight edge down, and I'm just going to begin trimming and trim all the way around the quilt at 2 inches. Okay, and then once I have everything trimmed all the way around, both the batting layer and the backing, I am going to go back and fold, press, and pin so that I have it ready for the sewing machine. Now, in this particular case, I'm using my backing as my binding. Okay, I don't always do that, but on these flannel quilts, it works out really nicely. And a lot of times, even on cotton, my regular quilter's cotton quilts, I will use the backing as the binding if I like the way that it looks. So that's just a shortcut. So I will get back to the camera in just a little bit once I have trimmed everything down and show you the next step. While I'm working on getting the rest of this trimmed down, and I'm gonna switch to being on the right hand side of it, I just wanted to mention real quick two things. Cutting boards. When you are going to travel with a cutting board, I strongly recommend that you have a cardboard box of some sort. Oh, there's Gibbles. Hi, Gibbles. This actually is the box that my giant graph paper came in, and I saved it. And when I travel, I actually travel with my cutting board down inside of this box with my graph paper. And the reason for that is one time years ago, I carried a cutting board with me in the car, and it was summertime, and I didn't have anything to keep it flat, and the car got hot, and the next thing you know, my cutting board was all warped up, and it never went back flat. So if you're going to travel with a cutting board, I recommend having a flat box like this that you can put it in to keep it flat and keep it from getting warped if the car gets hot. The other suggestion I have, because I have long hair, is anytime I use a cutting board and a rotary cutter, I pin my hair up. My hair one time fell off my shoulder and down into my workspace while I was cutting, and I almost cut my hair off because I was in the process of rolling the rotary cutter right when my hair fell loose. So if you have long hair, strongly suggest pin your hair up if you're going to use a rotary cutter. Okay, I'm having a little trouble getting this set up to where you can see it real well, but what I want to show you is two different ways that you can fold your binding at the corners. Sorry, my cat is playing with his little rubber lizard. You want to go get it? Go get it, puppy. All right, so first we had everything trimmed down. We trimmed our backing, even with the edge of the quilt. We trimmed our batting. And then our backing, we trimmed 2 inches away from the edge of the quilt. And then we fold in half that binding, and that's going to give us 1 inch. And then we can fold it in half on the other side as well. We have 1 inch on each side. Now, I've still got a little bit of that adhesive spray that's kind of holding this in place, so I didn't actually iron it. But for a nice straight edge and have it real nice and smooth, I do recommend ironing your binding before you sew it down. Okay, so if you just want a squared off corner and you don't want to make it look any kind of fancy, you can just fold this on over. We're just folding it right into the quilt, and you end up with a bit of a bulge right here at the corner. Now, if I pinned this down, and I'm going to use the longer pins here, and I'm going to use a shorter pin to kind of just hold this down right here at the very corner. Okay, so you can see that I've just kind of pinned it in place, and if I was going to sew this on machine, I would just take off from the very edge, zip it down, and then take off from the edge here, and I would create a little square right here, and I would just zip it on down. Now that is one way you can do this. There is another way to fold it, and there's also ways you can cut it so that you don't end up with such a big bulge of fabric right here. This is fine, especially if you're a beginner. There's absolutely nothing wrong with finishing it like this, and it will be strong, it'll hold. It's just going to be a little thicker right here on the very edge. What I would probably do if I was going to just leave it square here is I would come back in either with the machine or with a hidden stitch by hand, and I would just close up that little corner there to make it come down a little bit tighter. But that is one example. Now, Another way you can do this is a mitered corner. So I'm just going to unpin it and show you the mitered corner. Now for a mitered corner, you're going to fold in the corner tip to tip first. Okay, that is your first fold. Then you're going to fold the binding in half like we did the first time. My adhesive's not holding quite as well. Okay, then we're going to fold this side in as well. Okay, then we're going to fold this in to the corner again. Okay, so actually just folded right at the corner. I'm folding it at a, I guess that's a 45-degree angle, and then bringing in my corners. Okay, I'm going to pin this as I bring it in. Going to bring this one in as well, and I might have overfolded that. I think I overfolded it just a bit. Let me back that up just a tiny bit. Okay, and then when you fold these corners in, you should end up with a nice little mitered finished edge. And it's just a matter of folding and unfolding until you get it nice and smooth. That's not perfect, but typically what I can do is when I do come back and sew it down, I would hand stitch the corner so that it has a nice straight seam there that you can't really see the stitches. I would use a hidden stitch, and then we end up with a mitered corner there. There are other ways to do this where you actually cut part of the corner out. As you can see, this is going to give you a mitered corner. It looks a little bit fancier than just the squared off edge, and it's still thick there, but it doesn't have an opening on either corner. So we'll go ahead and finish pinning the rest of this and run it through the sewing machine and show you what it looks like on the next video where we have everything finished up.